How's it going, Thrivers? Miguel here from CFS Recovery. Welcome to this exclusive behind-the-scenes look at a live Q&A call in our Recovery Jumpstart program. In this video, we'll show you exactly what happens when our Thrivers come together to ask questions, share their progress, and receive support from the Thriver coaches. We're going to take you behind the scenes of our private online community where Thrivers can ask the Thriver coaches anything they need to know, from specific questions about their recovery plan to general advice on how to manage symptoms. You're going to see firsthand the level of care and support that our Thriver coaches provide as they answer questions and give tailored advice to each individual member. So I've blurred out faces and cut out any other people talking just to protect people's privacy. So these are the highlights of things that I've said on one of these calls. We have many of these calls per week. So whether you're considering joining our program or just curious about how we can help you take your recovery to the next level, just stay tuned to see the amazing work that's happening behind the scenes in our Recovery Jumpstart program. Like I said, this is just one of the many group calls we do each week, in addition to the individual one-on-one check-in calls and support we offer to every single member. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to grab a pen and paper, take some notes because I have a lot of analogies in this video. So hope you enjoy. Probably one of the biggest tips, especially when it comes to trying to figure out if you're actually making progress, is only comparing progress month to month. And even then, sometimes month to month, it's so small that you don't notice it. But if you were to compare 3 months apart, now you actually see noticeable differences. So if ever you're comparing or trying to see where you're at, compare where you were to like 30 days ago or 60 or 90 days. Anything within that, it won't really give an accurate representation. And I looked at it as like a stock market, right? If you look at a daily chart or like a very short time frame, it's very volatile. It's up and down. Like it's hard to tell which way it's going. But the more you zoom out, the more you're able to spot these trends in your recovery. So you're either staying the same or getting better or getting worse. Sometimes getting better, it's so minuscule as well. So for you, in the last, if we were to compare 3 months ago, where you were 3 months ago to today, overall, would you say it's about the same, or is it a little bit better or a little bit worse? You want the symptoms because the symptoms give you something to rewire against in your brain. It's almost if you were to try to put on 10 pounds of muscle or try to, let's say, run 3 miles. The only way to get there is to go through the workouts and actually get sore, because in getting sore, you're rebuilding your muscle. It's very similar with the nervous system. You're building up your tolerance to stimulus for life, basically. It's a very similar concept, but instead of your nervous system getting sore, you actually feel some pain or a lot more discomfort than just getting sore. But it's almost identical to working out, getting sore, and then taking a break from working out for a couple of days, the muscle rebuilding on top of itself, and then you going back and able to lift more weights. So it's that similar pattern. So there's no way that you can recover without feeling any symptoms. I've never seen it. I've seen some instances, for example, there's a lightning process. Some of you might be familiar with that, where people will do a brain retraining. They'll go from bedridden to riding a bike in one weekend. And it's possible, but it's not as sustainable. The amount of people who can make that progress, but then crash after, even worse, it's pretty high. So we want to build a strong foundation. And the trick is bringing on symptoms, but not so much that you can't handle it emotionally, right? Because with the physical symptoms, when they come, they're going to bring with them emotions, uncertainty, fear, doubt, all of those things. So it really comes down to how much can you handle emotionally. In the beginning, we want to start very subtle, right? Because in the beginning, most people are afraid of the symptoms and they try to avoid it at all costs. They see symptoms as bad, but all symptoms is just feedback from the body. That's it. We don't want to put any labels on it. It's just a scientific process that happens in the body. The body will just automatically start to go into survival mode. And the symptoms are like warning signs telling you, hey, there's danger. We got to slow down. But when you can override that and say to yourself, wait a minute, but there's no reason to slow down. There's no actual danger. But we understand we're not going to overstimulate you too much nervous system. So we'll take our foot off the gas pedal. So yeah, you do want to bring about some symptoms. But we talk about this more in the coming weeks, especially when it comes to expanding activity. Another big thing that keeps our threshold full, we were talking about on the last call, is just the ongoing stress in our brain. that could even be a stressor. That thought should be avoiding symptoms at all costs. If I feel symptoms, that means I'm going backwards or I messed up. Like you may not have those things, but like those are the things that crossed my mind all the time. I equated symptoms as bad things. Whereas once I started getting better, I saw flare ups as opportunities, literally opportunities in order to move forward in recovery. It's like my body was throwing me a test and saying, hey, are you going to pass this test or not? If you pass it, we'll grant you to the next level of recovery. And we have a lot of analogies we're gonna go through in the coming weeks that will help us make sense. Another analogy, you might have heard me say this in my videos before, everybody, but you're in this program because you've had tests done. You've had scans and blood tests and all of that, and they haven't found anything. So we know for a fact that your physical body, the hardware is working fine. There's nothing wrong with the hardware, but clearly there's a software problem, right? There's something going on with the way your brain is communicating with your body, where I don't know, some small things, even normal things will overstimulate your nervous system. And then there's a danger response. Now you're feeling symptoms. So it's if you have a computer, right? And someone knew nothing about computers, but the computer's not working, right? Somebody could look at the computer and be like, okay, let's try to figure this problem out. Okay, let's replace the keyboard. Okay, the keyboard's working fine, but the computer's, I can't open up the internet. All right, well, let's replace the mouse. Okay, it's not the mouse. Let's replace the monitor. Oh, it's not the monitor. Okay, so we've ruled out it's all like all the hardware is okay. Okay, let's look further. Let's do some research into this. And then you figure out there's a virus in the computer that won't allow you to even open up the browser. So you would think that the computer is broken somehow. You're replacing all these hardware things. That's like people trying to treat certain things with medication, which sometimes you have to, but it is a software issue. So once you fix the software issue, wow, everything's working normal again. The keyboard seems to work fine. The mouse, everything is good to go. So what CFS is, it is a software issue with the nervous system, right? Not a hardware issue with your bones or organs. So if we were to wave a magic wand and your nervous system is okay, and your nervous system is fixed, you can hike up a mountain. It's not like your legs are just going to break in half when you get to the top. It can handle it. It's just your nervous system can't right now because it gets overstimulated. So does that make sense for everybody? It's a software issue, not a hardware issue. Whenever you have symptoms that feel very physical, because they do feel physical, just remind yourself this is a software issue. All of that is being processed in your brain. Even if you feel leg pain, even if you feel chest pain, like weird things in your body, your eyeballs hurt from looking at a screen, your head hurts, or you think you're having a stroke. No, because your hardware is okay. It's your nervous system. It is a software issue. So what we're doing is with this program, with this whole recalibrating of the nervous system, we're basically giving your nervous system a little software update, right? Trying to update the software here. That's all. And I like to tell people, it's funny, but we all know somebody in life who is way more stressed than we are, who puts their body through way more crazy things, but they're fine. They don't have CFS. And then I had a lot of friends when I was a personal trainer and I got this. I was like, there's people in this gym taking steroids, doing cocaine, partying every weekend. Here I am. I'm drinking protein shakes and I'm trying to work hard. And why am I in the hospital? And these people are just walking around fine. And the way my doctor described it, he's some humans just didn't get the natural software update. You just didn't get the software update. Your nervous system is just a little more sensitive. That's all. I was like, okay, that sucks. But at least I know how to fix it now. So everybody on this call, we just missed the software update. That's it. So we just need to go in there. It didn't happen overnight automatically. So we need to manually update it. Once we update it, we'll be good to go. And one more point I do want to make with the fear of crashing. Like, how do you know when it's too much? Going back to that exercise analogy and working out, if someone brand new to the gym were to come in and exercise and you give them too much weight or make them run a little bit too far or jump a little bit too high, they're going to get injured. It's too much for their body to handle at that time. So that injury, that's going to stop them from working out. They have to wait 2 months or whatever. That's what a crash is in CFS. If you overstimulate your nervous system a little bit too much, that's like a mini injury. That's really all it is. So it's not permanent, but you are slowing down the recovery process. So a crash in recovery, it's like an injury when you're working out. But adjustment periods when you're recovering, that's like getting sore when you're working out. Those are very beneficial. You want those, but you don't want to push too hard where you injure yourself. Does that make sense? Cool. And I would know about injuries as well because I was a personal trainer before. And Adrian was also a personal trainer. And that's where it really helps with our background because we can help build activity back up. Because building up activity for a normal person versus someone with CFS, very different. Like we have to go a little bit more gentle. And it's not just muscles we're trying to condition, it's also the nervous system we're trying to condition. But we guide you with that. That's the one thing with CFS. We can feel like we're resting, like we're actually taking some time to recover. But we really, before watching my videos or learning about this stuff, you think that physically resting equals rest. That's not always the case because trust me, I talk to people all over the world. They can be pretty much almost purely bedridden and they're getting worse and worse because mentally and emotionally, they are so stressed. They might as well be walking around and doing chores. So while they're resting physically, emotionally, it is through the roof. They
Mhm.
can't sleep, super stressed out, heart is pounding. Because when you're in that state, everything is amplified. So it's almost like their brain thinks they're still running a race, even though they're just sitting still doing nothing. Right. So that's getting real legitimate rest is huge, right? When you can get full rest, it's like the best thing ever. So now I can sleep 6 hours a night, but I'll feel more rested than when I used to sleep 10 or 11 when I was just barely getting by. And I have a really good analogy here. Kind of just came up with it right now, but I'm going to share. Let me share my screen real quick. I think you guys will really like this. Give me a second. What you guys will find in this program too is I'm always full of analogies, lots and lots of analogies. And you guys are the first to see this analogy. So let's see how this goes. But essentially, when we're trying to condition our nervous system, right? Imagine you have this rubber band that you're trying to stretch. Let's say the rubber band is this short, right? If we try stretching it all the way to here, and let's say, for example, if this represents our ideal activity level, you zoom in, it's just going to snap if we try to do that much at once. So what we need to do is stretch the rubber band, then let it come back a little bit, then stretch it a little bit more, bring it back, stretch it, bring it back, stretch it, bring it back. What we don't do is stretch it slowly and continue to keep going because we're not really conditioning that rubber band. If we just keep going, eventually it's going to snap, right? If we just keep going. So we want to condition it. So you stretch it, bring it back, stretch it, bring it back, stretch it, bring it back, stretch it. And eventually it gets to the point where this rubber band is fully capable of going all the way to here, but you can't just do it all at once. You need to give it some time, but also give it time to come back. So you really are conditioning it. So that's like with our nervous system, conditioning our nervous system. And in terms of being able to work out again, yeah, I used to work out like 5 days a week or 6 days a week. My whole life, probably like a lot of my life revolved around working out, eat perfect, egg whites, protein shakes, mass gainers, all of that stuff. And I was religious with it, meal prep, everything. And it's like, it took so much energy. But now I feel like I'm nearly just as fit. And the amount of effort that it takes now is probably like 5%, right? Maybe I'm not as strong as before. I can't deadlift as much, can't bench as much, but I feel pretty healthy. My energy is high and I'm just way more efficient with it. You're, once you guys recover, you're way more efficient with your energy, not just physically, but mentally, right? You're able to compartmentalize different stressors and swipe away in what and how to deal with it a lot better. I think the reason we feel guilty about taking breaks as well is because we want to, another analogy here, metaphor, but we want to squeeze as much lemon out of life as possible. We want to squeeze everything out of life because, at least for me and a lot of people I talk to, the type A personalities, we're like, okay, we get one life. Let's make the most of it. Let's get the most out of every day and every week and every month. Just, I don't want to sleep because sleeping is like wasting time or taking a break is wasting time. But then I got sick and I realized that life, it's not a race. Whereas before, for me, everything was a sprint. Like I'm willing to do that. But now I play the long game, but I'm still just as efficient. So I still push myself quite a bit. Some days I'll work 12 hours or 13, 14 hours, but the next day I'll go super easy, or I'll go really hard for a week, 5 days, and then Saturday, Sunday, completely chill out. No guilt at all, because I know I need to condition my nervous system. So, for example, right now, this week, I'm taking it super easy. I've been taking naps because I've been going super, super hard the past few weeks. So it's all a balance. But I think once you recover, one of the best things that it teaches you is you're able to switch that almost type A personality off, because right now you don't know how to switch it off for a lot of us. Now we're able to switch it off. And that's it. That's like, it is a superpower. Being a perfectionist or having that type A personality, people say, "Oh, you should be more balanced." I think it's a superpower if you know how to use it, right? I think it was Spider-Man. They said, "With great power comes great responsibility." That's just another analogy for you saying, but with a big type A personality, if you use it correctly, you could do some amazing things. Sky's the limit. Or it can take over you and it could run your life and you could get something like CFS. So you learn how to manage your thoughts and emotions a lot better throughout this journey. So you come out way more equipped than even the average person to deal with stressors and all of that. So you do have an unfair advantage once you recover. Just know that. But it takes a lot of hard work. I definitely need to make a video of that rubber band analogy. I'll probably get an actual rubber band from the dollar store or something, because it's what it is. It's conditioning your nervous system. Yeah. What other questions you guys got? So we covered sleep. We covered some other things. What's that saying? It's what you focus on comes true, or something like that. You attract it. But in this case, it's like a literal neuroplastic process. It's like there's areas in your brain that are there's millions of areas in your brain. There's certain areas that are meant for processing pain, processing fatigue, processing shortness of breath, and triggering heart palpitations. It just so happens that a lot of our energy in our nervous system is going to those areas versus going to the normal areas they're supposed to go. Yeah, it's basically like a bunch of glitches in the nervous system. It's really all it is. That's what symptoms are, really. Glitches, false signals, and false alarms. So, yeah, very interesting. It's fascinating once you guys really wrap your head around this, how this stuff works. Just knowing this, it takes a lot of the mystery, a lot of the teeth out of the monster of CFS. Because when you understand this, there's a lot less anxiety around what's happening. You're able to predict what happens next, especially by the end of these 6 weeks when you guys are crash proof. You're going to be 2 steps ahead of the symptoms and the whole CFS. Nothing's really going to surprise you. That's what really helped me. But your first few adjustment periods, it's a bit scary because they don't all look the same. They're not all created equal. Some of them are more intense than others. But when you understand the concept of it, they're all pretty much, in a nutshell, the idea is the same. Great question. I think it really depends on the kind of therapist. I've seen a few therapists in the past. Some of them, they're pretty nice to talk to. You'll actually gain energy. Other ones is just draining, super draining. I think for the most part, if you don't feel like you really need one, you're not in like crisis mode all the time, I would hold off on it for now, at least for these next 6 weeks, because it can be quite stimulating. And we do get this question quite a bit. We had it come up twice a day on some earlier calls. They can be very emotional, and it depends on what kind of work you're doing with the therapist. Because if we're going into the past, digging up old trauma, like that in itself can trigger an adjustment period without doing any physical activity. Just the emotions from that can totally cause a flare up of symptoms. One thing you guys will learn and realize, emotional stressors, they can be like the not silent killers, but they can hit way harder than physical activity or even cognitive activity. If you get into an argument with a family member or a disagreement, or is it something tragic with the family, that can cause adjustment periods for sure. Emotional adjustment periods are huge. And the thing with emotions is, because for the most part they have to do with other people, emotions, it's very unpredictable. Like you don't know what someone's going to say, how they're going to react. So that's where it becomes very important. And you need to double down on that golden rule in recovery. Your success is determined by how well you respond to symptoms. A lot of times you won't be able to control the situation and you'll have symptoms come up. So you just need to focus on what you can control, which is the response to the symptoms. And actually, Adrian, you brought this up the other day, but that's the key right there. Your success, we didn't say it's controlled by how well you control your symptoms. It's by how well you respond to symptoms. because symptoms are going to be there. How do you respond to it? That's the key, really the key. So there's a few ways. I think number one, you have to ask yourself, okay, does this person have to be in my life right now? Do I live with this person, or is it someone that lives somewhere else and we meet up every now and then? I think the most important concept is you can't fill from an empty cup. So try to fill your cup first. And you do have to be a little bit selfish when you're focusing on recovery if you want to make leaps and bounds in your progress. So you do need to block out any stressors you're conscious of, even if that's people. So, for example, my mom, she was a huge stressor when I was super sick. She didn't believe me. She was like, "Oh, you're tired? I'm tired too. Oh, why don't
Yeah.
you go for a walk in the park?" When I was bedridden sometimes. I was like,
Yeah.
"You think I don't want to go for a walk in the park? Of course I want to go for a walk in the park." So she was like a savage, absolute savage. So I almost had to retrain my brain so that when she tells me something, it goes in one ear and out the other. I literally do not care what you're saying, mom, when it comes to recovery. But then when I got into the hospital, she started talk to me a bit differently when she realized I wasn't faking it and it was really happening. Is there anything specific that is triggering for you? Is it about recovery or they're just in general stressful people to be around? That would be my best tip is just avoid them at all costs and don't feel
Mhm.
bad about it. And just know it's going to be a temporary thing. It's not like you're blocking them out of your life forever. It's just this period of time you're gonna be selfish and focus on your recovery first. So when they call, just maybe don't answer and say, "Yeah, I totally missed your call. I don't know what happened there." Or when they want to hang out or something, it's like, "Oh, yeah, I guess my phone was dead or something." I would literally make excuses for certain people because that was the only way I could get better. So I would avoid them as much as you can, just temporarily. Put this energy, this excess energy that you do have back into yourself, into your own mindset. And you're going to need some energy once we start next week, figuring out what to do with all these thoughts, right? A lot of swiping away of the thoughts, a lot of rewiring. So you're going to need all the energy you could get. Try to put as much energy as you can back into yourself. Yeah, it's actually good for us to understand what brain retraining actually is as well. So essentially, brain retraining, we're doing it every single day, whether we realize it or not. All brain retraining is our mind wants to go down one route and we're consciously changing the path that it's going to go down. For example, the most simple example here, let's say we wake up, we go outside, it's raining. Immediately our mind might go, "Oh, crap, it's raining, streets are going to be wet, it's going to be slippery." You just saying, "Nope, we're not going to think like that. It's a nice day, we're alive, we got outside." That in itself is brain retraining. You're shifting an automatic thought of your brain to something else, an automatic reaction or something. So I think brain retraining, it's really just correcting a lot of the thoughts or moving it to something that serves you a lot better. Sometimes, yeah, you may have emotions come up and it will be normal to feel them. Like even a normal
Yeah.
person may feel it in that specific situation. But yeah, as much as you can, you want to have thoughts that serve you and less of the negative thoughts and try to stay as balanced as you can in your perception of things. And we're going to
Okay.
cover this more in the coming weeks. I'm very aware now. It all starts with awareness. Like before, I was just going through life and it's just noise in my head. This thought, I'm like, okay, cool. Just keep doing whatever. Now I'm very conscious of what I'm naturally telling myself automatically. For example, what's a good example here? I woke up today, woke up a little more tired than normal. I'm like, oh man, it's going to be one of these days that drag. Immediately, I caught myself. Nope, we're not doing that. We're not playing that game. It's going to be a solid day. So we're just going to go do our first task, chip away at it. But I catch myself. I'd always catch myself wanting to think like negative things or being like, I'm tired. I don't feel like doing this. Okay. Well, either go take a nap or do something. Just, it's really correcting your thoughts, right? But not having those automatic thoughts run your life. That's where brain retraining really helps, especially when it comes to emotion. Because when you have CFS, all your emotions are amplified, whether it's good or whether it's bad. A lot of times it's like more negative emotions because when you're feeling symptoms 24/7, of course, you feel like you're suffering all the time.
Yeah.
And then when you don't feel symptoms, it's, oh my goodness, I think I made it out. I think I beat this thing. And then it lasts for 6 hours and your symptoms come back. And you're like, oh, back down. So it's a roller coaster of emotions. But
Mm.
when you can stay as level as you can, it's ideally what we want. I have a video about this, about emotions and staying as balanced as possible. It's called talks about this thing called the gratitude effect. Really good book by Dr. John DeMartini. I'll put a link in the chat of my specific video of that because I think you guys will really enjoy that. But it's really helped me a lot. Yeah, let me find it. Yeah, sometimes you'll have emotions pop up or feelings or sensations with no rhyme or reason whatsoever. Not even a thought. You could be watching the Super Bowl, if you were able to, watching the Super Bowl with your family laughing. Next thing it's like your heart starts pounding. It's like, oh God, is that a panic attack? Like, why? There's no reason. So the best thing you could do in those situations is it goes back to the golden rule. How do you respond to that specific symptom or sensation in your body? Do you fight it? Does your brain start coming up with stories of why it happened or what happens next? Or do you just observe it and just go, huh, glitch, move on? I would look at it all as glitches, like even emotions too. Emotions are basically glitches. And then I wouldn't think deeper than that. But that in itself is brain retraining because the immediate reaction to most of these things, it's, oh, we need to solve this problem. Something's happening in the body. But you going, no, there's no problem. It's just a glitch. It'll be okay. Anyways, what were you doing? Back to whatever we were doing. That in itself is brain retraining. You're retraining your reaction to the symptoms, essentially.
Staying calm, cool, and collected. And
exactly. And then going right back to whatever you were doing and carrying on. I asked my doctor this because a lot of stuff in this program, most of it came from my doctor. He actually drew it all on a whiteboard for me. So I'm very fortunate he broke this down for me. He never knew that I was going to create a program like this and share it with you guys. But he said when he first met me, he was like, I feel like you're going to absorb all this information. So I don't do this with every client, but I'm going to teach you all of this stuff. Literally spent hours drawing on the board, diagrams. But I asked him at the end of it all, when I was about to get discharged from the hospital, I was like, out of all this stuff, what's the most important thing that matters? Main thing out of all of this that you've shown me in the last 3 weeks. And he was like, if you focus on just one thing, you can recover. If you throw everything else out the window, it's the golden rule. Your success in recovery, Miguel, is determined by how well you respond to symptoms. And I was like, really? If I just do that one thing and I respond well to all of my symptoms, all these thoughts and all the stressors, all that stuff, I'll be good. He's like, yep, pretty much. All of this other stuff is just a bonus for it to make logical sense why you're doing what you're doing. But that's really the core of what is going to get you your life back. I was like, okay, let's do it. So that I made that my main focus, and lo and behold, here I am. It's about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was pretty much getting ready to go into the hospital. I was basically paralyzed at home. Dad was blending food. I was drinking it, and I couldn't even hold that food down. Exactly 5 years ago, actually, January 19th. This was 2018. I wasn't even in the hospital yet. So I was getting worse and worse. But yeah, a lot can happen in 5 years. I had my life back 2 years ago, like fully traveling. So a lot can happen in a short time. So keep on going, guys. Your life could look so different even 12 months from now because you're not even as bad as I was. So it's exciting. But I'll share with you more stories as the weeks go on. Same with Adrienne. She has a lot of crazy stories. It'll be really cool to share out with you guys. You've had this for about 4 months, right?
Yes.
Severe?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, a lot can happen over the next 2 months. If you've only had it for 4 months, then yeah, we'll have to take it week by week. But as we get closer to the date, what it would look like is we'll pull back on some activity, maybe 2 weeks out or 1 week out, just so you could start building up your threshold. So that way you go into the trip with a full tank, basically. But yeah, I would say right now, try to take that trip out of your mind. It's going to be very difficult, but yeah, we want to remove as many deadlines and timelines as possible. Focus only on, I call it your 3-foot world. In this case, it'll be like 3-day world, right? The only thing that matters is today, tomorrow, maybe the day after, and also 3 days ago. But the more present you can be, the better. I think 2 months can be a world's difference. Just to paint a picture, when I was in when I was in the hospital, I think it was March 1st, I moved to that wing where I started working with my doctor. I was learning how to get into a wheelchair, could barely function. I was completely bedridden. March, April, May. 4 months later, I was on a plane to another country, filming a project with people I barely knew, in another country. So that was 4 months apart. And actually, from the day I was discharged from the hospital, just learning how to walk again, 3 months later, I was on that plane. And then over the next 12 months, I actually did 8 international trips. And it was lots of fun. Like, I never thought in a million years I'd be able to travel once again, let alone walk. But I went on 8 trips. One of them included Hawaii, which I'm going to share some stories with you guys over the coming weeks, and also something we're going to be doing every year with people in this program, people who recover. I'll give you a little sneak peek right now. It's a Thriver retreat. For everybody who recovers, we're going to do this cool thing, but I'll save the details for now. I'll break it down a little bit more in the coming weeks. But yeah, I think you'll do great. So
thanks a lot, Miguel.
Yeah, just keep on going, man. So yeah, that should wrap up this call. Awesome call, everybody. Did everybody find that useful? Get some golden nuggets out of this one? Perfect. So the replay will be up as well on this for our group here, but we will see you all on the next call. So just continue doing your homework. I'm going to send out a link after this call so you guys can book your check-in calls for next week, and then we'll go from there. So just reach out to us when you need extra help. I will unlock week 2 on Sunday. We'll see you guys on the next call, and then just reach out when you need any help. Take it easy, everybody.